Shell, why don't you introduce yourself? Because nobody knows who you are.
Hi, Shell. I'm Shell Israel. Go ahead.
You're a Forbes author.
I write books. This is my 5th book, my 2nd with Robert. It's my 4th collaboration with Robert. I'm a columnist for Forbes. And I've been in Silicon Valley stuff since 1979, so I'm not employee number 1 anywhere, because the place I worked back then are all gone. So that's my bio.
Yeah.
Now back to our book.
Yeah. So, I go around and interview tech executives. It's what I do for my day job. And I've interviewed, 5,000 people now at this point. And last year I started seeing this trend that I call context, but it's really 5 forces. So to understand what contextual systems are, let's dig into the 5 forces. So the force number 1 is mobile. And yeah, we have our, smartphones, but it's going to really explode in the next 18 months. And you're already seeing precursors of this. Epiphany Eyewear is putting cameras and compute packages into sunglass frames at Stanford University. Basis has a heart rate monitor. I'm wearing a sleep monitor. Google Glass is going to come on the market next year. Apple's going to have an iWatch. The guy with the big ski goggles on runs Recon Instruments, and he put a wearable computer inside the ski goggles. Those are the Oakley Airwave ski goggles. And when we met Autodesk, they talked about clothing, and already the CEO has a jacket with an Arduino board in it with a lot of LED lights on it. And the fact that this new world is going to be able to study us as we walk around makes it very different type of thing than like our laptops or our desktops, which are designed to sit in one place. Did you have anything to add to that, Shell?
Other than mobile as we know it is about to become that old stuff. It's like when the laptop came along and the personal computer on the desktop seemed old and big, and cell phones are going to be these huge monsters, and there's going to be smaller, more powerful stuff. We'll get to some of that in a minute.
Yeah. So the force number 2 is data. And I hate the word big data because it doesn't explain everything. The industry calls this big data. I just was seeing a whole bunch of new database types come out. I think we talked about several in the book. We're seeing machine learning on data. We're seeing data computation. So there's a lot of innovation happening in databases. MongoDB, which a lot of startups use, didn't exist, 6 years ago, right? So this is not, Oracle is not running this world anymore, at least the new world. Oracle's databases cannot keep up with the flows that are coming off of Twitter. When I know the guy who runs DataStax, and he has a firehose feed off of Twitter, and we'll talk about Twitter because it's social is one of the forces. But they can't keep up with the streams of data coming out of Twitter with an Oracle database. There has to be new data innovation, and we've seen it over and over. Some of the things, by the way, on the slides, the computer there's the original Google computer, which came, Google was in 1998. That had 400 megabyte hard drives, really high capacity hard drives. Seagate, when I was at CES this year, has 12 terabytes on your desktop, right? So you can think about how much the world has changed in terms of storage and data computation capabilities. And
just at the beginning, Robert talked about us disliking big data, and we think it creates this whole image of these terabytes up in the cloud. Petabytes, or that sounds even worse, but this big mountain.
Exabytes.
And at the same time, it's the little teaspoons of data, the tiny data that matters. It's the data that matters whenever you do a query in Google. It's the data that matters whenever you're trying to log in and you don't have troubles with it. And so all of us live off of little pieces, little tiny slivers of data all the time. That's the good news. And the trade-off is that data goes somewhere where it is collected and stored.
Yeah, I mean, the new iPhone I just got Friday has a 6-axis accelerometer, and it's storing that in a little tiny database. So is that big data? Not to the phone. The phone needs to understand some context of what we're doing, and it will tell you context in the future. It will tell you all sorts of stuff. Force number 3 was location data was going up exponentially. Here's my Foursquare feed from last night, and you can see how many times I checked in last week at New York. And the numbers of check-ins is going up exponentially according to the Foursquare team. And Foursquare is not the only one, right? Waze just got bought for $1.3 billion by Google. And Facebook is seeing an exponential rise in the amount of location data. And everything that our new iPhones, by the way, if you look deep into the settings, is studying every place you stop and making a list of it. Right? And so we're seeing an exponential growth in the amount of data about location, and we have self-driving cars, and we have GPSs up on the slide. Do you have anything to add?
Just a thought of when we talk about context, where you are changes all the context in the world. Yeah. If you do a search and you put in the word park, where you are and what time of day it is might determine whether Google tells you a garage that is safe because it has security cameras or a place that has swings and slides for your kid. And location, when you think about it, is one of the things that computers haven't had a lick of sense about historically and have given you some of the dumb answers that we all remember.
Yeah. I mean, just think about walking into this room, right? You crossed a geofence to get onto the San Jose Convention Center property. Google knows something about that, right? Google knows something about this property. And then you're in a room with other people. That is marking your context, and you can do things with that. And we'll talk more about what you can do. Force number 4 that I started seeing was the amount of sensors on us, around us, in our world was just going up exponentially, partially because we all got smartphones, and that has 7 sensors on it. Some of the smartphones actually have 9 sensors. But we're going to get Google Glass, and we're going to get a watch or something on our wrist. Nike next month is coming out with shirts with sensors and shoes with sensors. And I kept hearing about all these sensors. I mean, I walked around the Consumer Electronics Show and saw a plant sensor, right, that measures your whether you're watering your plants and fertilizing them properly. But John Deere, I'm about to go see John Deere, and they're making a tractor of the future that's going to pass sensors in the field, and it's going to know exactly how much fertilizer to put it there. It's even going to know that the field is too wet to plow or something like that. It's going to be, this whole world is going to be censored, and not censored in the First Amendment way. Right?
In the book, we keep using the phrase across the freaky line. And most people, when they think of the freaky line, they talk about data. Is big data watching you? Well, the answer is, of course it is, which we'll talk about in a while. But sensors are the other part of the freaky part because they're going everywhere. Yeah. They're going to be throughout your home, throughout your car. They're already throughout your iPhone, your smartphone, and it's going to be in your clothing, in digital. And they're watching. They're seeing what you're seeing. They're watching what you watch. And it is being recorded. So there's a great deal about sensors that are, I think, miraculous. When we talk in a while about tattoos that help doctors, help quadriplegics who cannot communicate any other way what's going on in their bodies, that's a miracle. But at the same time, sensors are watching you wherever you go. And this is very good, and it's very scary.
Yeah. The last force that I noticed was the amount of social network data is going up exponentially. Twitter today has 1 billion tweets every 36 to 48 hours. In 18 months, they predict that'll be 1 billion tweets in 18 hours, right? And the flow of data that we're all putting into Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus and on is enabling new kinds of companies and new kinds of computation systems to do all sorts of fun things. And we'll talk about that now. So the book really comes to conclusions of 4 things that it does for humans and then business. The first 2 things that for us, what does it do for us? It means that our products are going to be highly personalized. When I went down to Oakley, they said, oh, in the future, our sunglasses are going to tell us or even change the lenses to serve us, serve our location, serve our light systems, serve what kind of thing you're doing. You know, if you're mountain biking or skiing or surfing, you need a different kind of glass than if you're just going to a shopping mall, right? Google Glass, I usually have my Google Glass on, but I broke it, so I'll have a new one on Saturday. But Google Glass, when you put it on, you see my stocks, my airline tickets, my weather, my tweets, my Facebook, my photos. And it's highly, highly personalized to me. I'll just switch to the next one. I'll let you jump in here.
I only had a quick question on that one. My wife
Yep.
would like to know where she can get those shoes.
Well, we should talk about those shoes. Down in Australia, when I went to Sydney, this is a company called Shoes of Prey, and they're making custom shoes. So the shoes are very highly personalized for you. And this is just the start. Moto X, if you buy a Moto X, you can make the Moto X be yours with its own color scheme. And I forget how many hundreds of thousands of combinations of materials and colors and stuff that they're enabling. Custom manufacturing is really taking off. You add in sensors into this manufacturing and it gets pretty crazy pretty quickly. The second thing it means for us is that we're going to get new anticipatory services and products. Google Now is a great example. When you have this much data, and Google certainly does, that Google knows everything you search, everything on your calendar, everything in your email. Soon they're going to know where I'm headed with my Google Glass and where I'm looking. They have a lot of data. And so they can start looking ahead and say, oh, your next meeting is in San Francisco. You better leave now because there's an accident, and Waze already knows this, right? And can tell us what is coming. You know, I shot the screenshot last night, and it told me, hey, you better be at San Jose by 7:30 a.m., right? It's trying to get ahead of me. It knows what my next meetings are. It knows that I like the San Francisco 49ers, so it told me, hey, today there's a game, right? And on and on.
When you think of anticipatory systems, just think also of something called, which everyone in this room probably knows, the Internet of All Things. Because all things are going to start talking to each other, and they're going to start figuring things out. So, you know, if you're sleeping and your personal contextual assistant, as we call it, you're supposed to wake up at 7 in the morning, they may wake you up half an hour early because they've already monitored the weather reports, found out it snowed last night, not in San Jose, or discovered there'll be a traffic tie-up for one reason or another. And so your personal contextual assistant will know to wake you up half an hour earlier so that you can get to your first appointment in time.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
For businesses, it means two things as well. It means that a business is going to see everything about everything. And, you know, General Electric calls this the industrial internet. The jet engines now have dozens of sensors that are actually listening to the engine and know a month before it needs maintenance by the sounds it's making, right? Union Pacific is putting sensors on the railways to do the same things and listen to the cars going overhead. Uber, and we'll talk about Uber in a couple hours because we have a competitor of Uber coming up on stage. But Travis, who runs Uber, can see every piece of inventory, every transaction, every employee. Every employee is monitored and rated in real time. You know, when I worked at Microsoft, I had to wait 6 months for my boss to review and rate me, right, and give me a raise. Now I can see that in real time at each customer point. And I didn't even understand how deep this was going to be. We went to SRI and saw a workstation, which is watching your eye and watching what you looked at before you made a decision and what you touched and what you decided to do. It was pretty crazy. But in the future, that kind of workstation is going to be everywhere. By the way, a standard webcam can do pretty close to the same thing. Israelis have figured out how to use a standard webcam in a Mac to watch your eyes and watch where you're looking on the screen, right?
I'm watching.
Somebody's watching. The NSA's watching.
Just one other thing. Throughout the book, a theme that we weren't focusing on is we kept seeing sustainability issues. You changed on me.
No, go ahead.
Those jet engines that GE is putting sensors around and joining into a social network with engineers, GE estimates will save $4.3 billion in costs to the airlines, but it will in fuel. That's all this fuel that will not be emitting into the atmosphere pollution. At the same time, we have anticipatory systems that we report about in the contextual home that's doing the same thing in the home to make faucets more efficient. The Nest thermometer, a thermostat makes your home more efficient. And there are all these little teaspoons again that are going to result in a cleaner planet, which I think most people favor these days.
Yeah.
Most people. Okay.
The second thing it means for business is that we're going to know our customers in very deep detail. Today I live next to the Half Moon Bay Ritz, and there's 4 computer systems there, none of which really talk to each other. They don't really know who I am, even though I've been there 250 times according to Foursquare. I go in there, and the bartender might know who I am, but the system doesn't know who I am. And if I go to the Ritz in London, they don't know anything. And you can tell that they don't know anything because I'm talking to the social media team on Twitter. And yeah, that's cool. Oh, great. Somebody's watching the brand and interacting with me. But within 3 tweets, I figure out these guys don't know anything. They don't even know how to look me up on Foursquare, see what I've done and who I've brought to the Ritz and stuff like that.
Mark Anderson, who you've probably all heard of, the founder of Netscape and is now a partner in Anderson Horowitz, predicts that in 20 years, when you walk into a store for the first time, they will know who you are and have already figured out what you're there to buy, and will be able to treat you, show you products based on what your preferences are known to be. Yeah. And that businesses that are not able to do this 20 years from today will not exist.
Yeah, so the picture is Christy Wells. She just met Paloma Faith, who just gave her first U.S. concert. Christy Wells went home and liked her on Facebook. A system called Audience FM can track that and know a lot about who this new fan is, because we are all liking things on Facebook. And if you've made it sort of public like I have, you can see everything about me. You can see what music I listened to on the way here today on my Facebook profile, right? And so think about being an artist and being able to know your customer in real time that way. Think about, I've talked to will.i.am, and he's going to wear a Google Glass and look at his audience. He wants to know something about who's in that audience. How old are they? What is their favorite music? Why do they, what are they saying on Twitter during his performance? He's already doing this backstage. He wants to see it live and during his performance. So it means a lot. So now we'll switch into talking about some of these bigger impacts. It means a lot for cities. And you talk about this new urbanist, I guess, right?
It's while we were doing research for this, I came across Greg Lindsay, who's an author himself, and describes himself as an ardent urbanist, which was a term I never heard of. He grew up in a very small town in southern Illinois. It wasn't the suburbs, it was the exurbs, and they lived on the last streets of it before miles and miles and miles of cornfields began. He then grew up and went to college. He went to the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, which was a bigger place but had an even more rural culture to it. The day after he graduated, he hopped in the car with all his possessions and drove to New York City and never left. He fell in love with the city. He found everything that he wanted was in city life. And I found this strange and started doing a little research, and I found out that there is a very clear trend in most cities in the country, not cities like New York, San Francisco, San Jose, that are noticeably cool and have been magnets for young people forever, but places like Youngstown, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. 10 years ago, Cleveland was selected as the sorriest city in the country. Mm-hmm. And now it's got this thriving internal area. There are entrepreneurial, tech-related entrepreneurial activities happening in all these other cities. And so we started finding this move of the new urbanists. And with them, they bring many things to the city. They bring an educated level. They bring new affluence. They also bring contextual technology. They
Yeah, keep going.
They use cell phones to talk to government. Government is discovering that collaborating over cell phones makes sense and gets politicians reelected. So that brings us to some of the technology from around here. Autodesk.
Well, and Amazon and Google are just this week announced new grocery delivery services. And
Yeah.
it's not yet to Half Moon Bay, but if you're here in the cool part of, you can now get your groceries and all sorts of stuff delivered to you.
Yeah, let me tell you about what you did, because we wrote about Google, and then the fact checker said, this doesn't exist, never heard of it, so we took it out of the book, and then the day after the book got published, it came out and you were right and we were all wrong. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway.
That's what happens when I know about the future.
Scoble sees the future and screws up fact checkers.
I don't see anything, I just have good friends.
Yeah. Anyway, the result is that these new urbanists are raising families in the city. And they're living a different life. Survey after survey says that they would prefer to have a smartphone to a car. So fewer and fewer of them are owning cars, which are leading to businesses like Uber, like Zipcar, like quite a few others.
We're going to hear about one in an hour.
They're demanding a cleaner city. Along comes 3D modeling from Autodesk. And Autodesk is working with city planners and urban designers and building architects. Yeah. And they're assembling 3D models that, for the first time, instead of looking at blueprints, everyday people can look and see what it will look like. Yeah. They can see the future. Not only can they see what the building will look like, they'll see what's underneath. First responders can look at this and say, no, if you do this, we won't be able to get in there. Contractors are saying, wait a minute, if you put the elevator there, the air shaft won't work on floor 16. So the issues that we looked at, Boston's famous Big Dig, which only had a $52 billion overspend, and took another 28 years to complete from when originally predicted. That stuff isn't going to happen as much anymore. I would never say when government is involved and contracts are involved that this stuff will go away. Yeah. But what happened in cities like Seattle is when they say, we're going to build this project here, and by coincidence another group is going to build another large project, and they touch each other, suddenly you can show the entire community how these two projects will take 5 square miles of downtown Seattle and work together so that educators can see that if the highway goes there and there's a new ramp there, it's a threat to a school that exists there, and that ramp needs to be built. And so many of the problems that have happened in urban development are looking like they will go away. IBM has a smarter cities model that is going on that really is just taking off in a lot of ways, but they're looking at things like the San Francisco sewer line is too close to waterways in some places, and what needs to be done to make sure the sewage stays in one line and the water stays in another line, and they do not meet, which can cause a small problem called cholera.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, if you have never been to the Autodesk Museum in San Francisco, it's open every Wednesday, yep. And they show buildings and how they're putting sensors in all sorts of stuff, and they. Because everybody who builds a building now or anything is using Autodesk software, they can actually fly you into the building and go right to the elevator shaft and right to the motor and tell you how much maintenance has been done. It's really incredible about the data that they have and the data that they have about how we're going to interact with cities. Waze, when I went to Israel and met with the guys the kids who started Waze, they talked about the data that they were learning, even in the early days, just by having a few drivers drive around, that they could help cities plan traffic and change traffic lights to make everybody's life a little bit better.
Yeah, Autodesk, just very quickly, yeah. Autodesk also does the special effects in movies like Avatar. They do the special effects, or they don't do them, but they create the technology for the special effects in all these movies. So picture the things you've seen on film being used to design cities and give the same ability of people to travel over it and see exactly what it will be like and how it all flows and how it all assembles together. Go ahead.
Tell me about how transportation is going to change.
Hey.
That's By the way, I had the
Yeah.
video, the first video of Google's self-driving car. That's a frame out of it. And I was driving along this next to this thing. I had no idea that it was a self-driving car. And that's my friend Andy, who was one of the 10 guys who started the iPhone, driving his Chevy Volt. So how is cars and transportation going to change?
Yeah, just backing up a little. One of the places that Robert and I are kind of different is I like to sit back, lean against the fence, and tell you a long story. And I'm trying my very best not to do that. In the book, I made my longer stories a little shorter, just a little. But one of the stories I loved was the story of Stephen Broder, the New York Times reporter who often covers the White House with great accuracy, who took a Tesla for a test drive. And he drove it from Washington, D.C. to what was supposed to be Boston, but it got aborted in Connecticut, and he wrote a review in the New York Times absolutely destroying the Model S, or thinking he was destroying the Model S, complete with a picture of the Model S in Waterbury, Connecticut being towed away. Elon Musk did not take kindly to this. And unknown to Stephen Broder, there was a black box in the car. I forgot what it's called, electronic data, EDS. And it works like the black box in a plane cockpit.
Which isn't black, it's usually orange, which is sort of funny.
Well, we don't discriminate on color anyway. So. But this box recorded all the data of Broder's trip. And to make it very short, it showed a great deal of intentional abuse, or what appeared to be intentional abuse. The New York Times said, uh-oh, this looks bad, and they put their ombudsman on it. Ombudsperson, it's a woman. Helen, never mind. And she reviewed it and confirmed that Musk was telling a more truthful story than the Times reporter. Both did a little embellishing, but clearly Broder was trying to make the car look bad. And in the old days, we had the vice chairman of General Motors using blogs to complain about the LA Times bad reviews, but Musk used forensic evidence. Now, this is really cool that they could do this, and I was very impressed. But what's happening is these boxes are going to go into all modern cars. It'll start with the luxury cars and work down. They have a lot of values. And is one place that data is being collected on you in huge quantities, and much of it really helps you. But there are questions that remain being unanswered about how this data will be used, by whom, who owns it. When you sell a car, do you have to turn over your data box records to the new buyer, who will find out that you were hard on your brakes and like to go 95 miles an hour? And had 12 collisions.
And this is already happening. On the way down to Vegas, I was using a Waze. I was sharing, actually, I was using Glimpse and Waze at the same time. And I was sharing my travels in real time with my Twitter followers. And somebody snapped a picture of me doing 100 miles an hour on Highway 5.
Could he be arrested for this?
Probably.
Who would arrest you because the shot was...
Nah, they'll just mail me a
The
ticket.
capture was done in California. You're in,
Yeah.
It gets complicated. It gets very complicated. Years ago, GM, it didn't OnStar didn't start as a GM product service, but it became that. And that is actually one of the most pioneering automotive contextual devices. We tell a story in a book about a couple of guys outside of Sacramento in a parking lot. A desperate guy comes up with a shotgun and says, "Give me the keys to your," I forgot what kind of GM pickup truck it was. It was a pickup truck. And the passengers said, "Wait a minute." And the guy who owned the car said, no, it's okay. And so the guy, the thief takes the car, gets in it with a shotgun, speeds off, and the guy who owns it picks up an iPhone, does a little report to OnStar. OnStar starts an anti-thievery device. They search, they locate where the car is, they report it to the police say they have visual. I get all choked up on this story. And they push a button at control, and very slowly the car starts going slower and slower and slower, then stops. The police stop right behind it. The thief jumps out, throws a shotgun down, and runs straight ahead directly into a swimming pool where he was apprehended and handcuffed.
Yeah.
This is amazing stuff, and OnStar has technology that leads in this area, but every car maker is planning to have this kind of stuff.
So, this book sort of started with a conversation with Vic Gundotra, who's now the vice president at Google, and a couple other engineers, former engineers who worked on the Google mapping team. As you walk around with your cell phone, if I get to follow you, if you turn on a few features, and it's not hard to turn them on, I know which gas station you use, right? I know whether you go to church on Sunday morning. I know what school you go to or what schools your kids go to. I know your favorite 15 restaurants within a month, right? And on and on. And so, we interviewed Toyota and General Motors and Ford, and they were saying, well, we could use that data to serve you. We could pre-populate your navigation system.
Absolutely true, but go ahead.
Waze is already starting to do this, right?
Yeah,
I turn on Waze and it says, are you going to work? Because it knows it's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
and I'm leaving the house. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to work because that's where I go every morning.
But the question is, what else can be done with this data? Obviously, if police can subpoena your cell phone, they can also subpoena the black box in your car. And at the same time, what if you're getting divorced and one spouse wants to show that you're parked in an area that you might have been practicing infidelity? Could that be used in a domestic case? Who owns that data? Who decides this? There has never been a court case talking about it even, so no one knows. And then there's the incentive, but like Progressive has already said, if you put one of these boxes in your car, and you show you're a good driver, we will give you a discount. And what if it happens that it shows you're a bad driver? Will they then increase your fees?
But these are all temporary problems because we're going to talk about later today about self-driving cars and why you're never going to own one of those. It's just going to come. It's just going to come and pick you up.
We are. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we are.
We're never going.
Not you and me, but
I was looking forward to one.
How much time do we have left, by the way? Because I think it's about 10 minutes. Oh, jeez.
That's my co-author's way of telling me to shut up and let's move on.
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
We have like five
Okay,
slides.
I'll just sit here. Go ahead.
So it means a few things. It means pinpoint marketing. You're going to soon be studied by marketers in a whole new way. Vintank, for instance, is seeing 1.1 million tweets a day about wine. And they're located in Sonoma. They're already putting geofences around wineries. When you walk into that winery in Napa, let's say you go to Paradox, it's going to, and you certainly if you tweet or Facebook or Foursquare check-in, it'll do something. When you go to Camus, they'll know that you were at Paradox, and they'll know you're a different customer than if you come from Sutter Home like Shell does, right? And we got to skip some of that stuff. The picture here, by the way, is a 3D sensor at Walmart over your head, and they can see you're touching the Cheerios in real time and do stuff about this.
I'm done shutting up. So when you reach for the Cheerios, there will be an iPad on the shelf offering you 40% off either on the Cheerios or for a competing cereal over there that wants to hijack you.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
It means a whole new range of hardware. This stuff didn't even make it into the book because it's so new. It's coming on the market literally right now. This is the Broadcom CEO. Broadcom's a San Jose company. They're making these low-energy Bluetooth radios. These radios are going to cost less than $10 wholesale. The battery on them lasts 2 years. I could put one underneath each one of your seats, and if you are using a new iPhone, I'll know you're sitting right there, and I'll know how close you're to that seat. Right? So think about putting these into the Ritz at the bar or at the front entrance or at the swimming pool. Your iPhone is going to behave differently based on where you are and who you're with. By the way, your iPhone is a low-energy Bluetooth device already. So as you get closer to somebody else who has an iPhone, it could do something as well. This stuff is going to affect every product. I talked to GoPro because they started 200 yards from my house in Half Moon Bay, California. A camera is no longer about capturing the photons of light that are being reflected off of you. It's about capturing what was the weather? Where did you take this picture? Who's in the picture? Can I tag them? And of course we can face detect and tag a lot of people in a camera picture in the future. What else is going on the internet that we could grab and attach to that image? We can make a contextual image. This node sensor system does all sorts of sensing of environmental factors. I'm soon going to have a Nest, Nest is making a new device, a smoke detector. I don't think it's going to be a smoke detector at all. It's going to be an air quality monitor. I already have some coming from Cube Sensors that are going to tell me all sorts of stuff. Chris Anderson's daughter died. Chris Anderson
the
runs
TED
TED.
producer.
His daughter died because of carbon monoxide poisoning because she didn't have a good sensor in her house. That's not going to be a problem in the future. It means everything that we touch is going to change because of sensors, even a normal pair of headphones. This company, Dysonics, is putting a little sensor on top of a normal pair of headphones. Doesn't change the headphones. And they put a little compute package, and they can change how you hear music. For instance, if I'm listening to a band, the band is always out here, right? You're the band. And no matter where I turn my head, the band stays there. But in headphones, the band's moving as I move my head. Well, using his systems, it keeps the band in one place and can change the way it's defined. The guy here is at Park. They are inkjet printing circuitry on anything now, very low cost. They're thinking that you can put 50 transistors and a little radio on a milk carton with a little sensor for very low cost, a few pennies for this. What does the dropping costs in sensors mean? It means new kinds of devices. This is coming out this month. It's called Breathometer. It's an alcohol sensor. We've had alcohol sensors for a long time. The cops all have them, but the cops have to pay $600 to $1,000 for theirs. This is $49. My brother owns a bar. He's going to buy 10 of these and leave them around. He's going to develop a new kind of drinking game to optimize the profits at that bar. Think about that one, right? You haven't had enough to drink. How do I get you to drink a couple of drinks, right? That's the other side, right? And then after you've had your 3 drinks, it's going to call one of the taxi cab companies, Uber or whatever, or we're going to hear from one of them in an hour. It's a whole bunch of new health sensors. And Michelle, we have, 2 minutes left? So
I'll pick
We
one.
have this and then privacy to cover in 2 minutes. So.
Health is one. These are the 2 of the most important chapters in the book. We all know that traditional institutional health care sucks in America, and we could grow old trying to do something about it. But what's going on is people are using contextual technology to be healthier. You know about Fitbit and all these self-improvement things there are over 8 million people using these devices and getting healthier. The trend is that this will be 20 million people in 2 more years. At the same time, there are children with real diseases where there's a doctor, I forgot her first name, Dyson, I'll get to her, who works with diabetic children. And she discovered that children cheat by hacking their meters and showing that every day they have 90 to 100 when really they're 220 or 58. And they're masking eating disorders and other secondary problems to the diabetes. So she's created an incentive program to do the right things. And every time they exercise or every time they have a salad instead of a sweet, they get certain points, and for that she gives them an iTunes gift certificate for about $5 or $10. And she's getting measurable results. There's geomedicine where they're discovering children walking to school were using their, what do you call these devices? Inhalers.
Asthmatics.
Asthmatic inhalers, which is legal. And they noticed that the children with asthma were always using the inhaler in the very same place. And then they looked on a map and said, duh, there's a refinery over there and they're getting particulate pollution and it's making them sick. So they got the children to walk 1 block around it and cured the problem. There is...
on and on. Yesterday,
it goes on and on.
Yesterday, I saw a heart, not a heart monitor, a saliva monitor that can tell 24 hours before you're having a heart attack by just sticking your tongue on it. So every morning you're going to stick your tongue on this. And can we spend 1 minute on privacy? Because all this stuff, is anybody freaked out by the fact that you're going to be stalked and monitored? By the way, this guy built the Kinect sensor. The new Kinect coming out this fall is so sensitive it sees your heart rate across the room as you walk by it, right? So think about all the new privacy problems that we're going to soon be facing.
Tell them about Google before he throws us off the stage.
Google. We have, the book comes to
privacy
some conclusions about how to behave nicely in this new world.
You're
Google.
going to be out signing the book later, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
To find out how privacy works, read the book.
Yeah.